Hello, we're Team Fakifak and we took on Challenge 2. The team comprises of Catherine, Jacob, John, our team captain, Josh and Ralph. The challenge was facilitating effective evacuation. Currently, when construction sites evacuate, all electronic capture of people movement data stops to speed up evacuation times. To then account for everyone, you have a very labour-intensive task that relies on a handful of people to then try account for hundreds or thousands of people. The challenge is to build an automated solution that can help cut this manual activity and speed up the understanding of who and who isn't safe. The main users we identified for this challenge were Site Safety Manager and Evacuation Response Manager.
To begin with, we looked at the data that had been provided and just to decide how best to use it. We decided to bring the multiple files into one file and we then mapped across some of the data from different sheets. So we had a more complete data set to work from, and we used swipe card data from and the manually entered data to distinguish between workers and guests on site. So in order for the emergency evacuation tool to work effectively, it's imperative that we have contact details for everyone on site. For the purposes of our demonstration, we manufactured dummy email addresses for workers, but this is information that would be required for the tool to work in real life. Contact details for guests on site must also be collected, so whether that's email addresses or phone numbers, we would need a contact detail. An issue that we identified early on was that excluding those who swiped in on the day of the emergency, which we understood to be April the 19th, 2020, there were 500 instances of staff members swiping into site and not swiping out on exit. We would suggest that safeguards are put in place to ensure that staff leaving the site are swiping their cards on departure to avoid any unnecessary searching by emergency services. And this will also improve your ability to keep employees safe.
With the gaps in the data identified and the data ordered for analysis, it was then time to visualize it in Power BI. As a team, working on this particular aspect, we decided to use a slicer to be able to filter by dates. This allowed us to understand the workers and guests on site on the different days. Power BI enabled us to create relationships between the data, as seen in the figure below. These relationships allowed gaps to be identified that may present a challenge in the practical application using only the dataset supplied to our team. For example, recognizing that scheduling didn't align to the access control data, this means there would be guests and employees working overtime or potentially on sick leave, making scheduling data slightly inaccurate. This could potentially be problematic in the event of an incident and an evacuation, as employees and guests who are present on site could go undetected. There is also the need for a number of operators, potentially designated fire wardens, to be able to account for sets of workers and guests.
To help us achieve one of our main aims of automation, we used a combination of Microsoft Forms and Power Automate. The first workflow we created was around sending the notification, which embedded a Microsoft Form link with inside it that people could then use to mark themselves either safe or not safe following the evacuation. A further future enhancement could also be, rather than it being an email, it could be sending a text message. The second workflow we then created within Power Automate was around taking those responses and appending the information onto our original data set so we had a single source of the truth.
This is Raw Short. We have built two Power Apps. The first one is related to the manual entry of data, and the second one is related to the marking status made by the fire wardens. So the first one, as you could see, you enter all of the data on the right hand side here and it's reflected on the left hand side, and for the future you could edit all of the data through that detail pane. And then the second app is the marking status, where the fire wardens could be entering the data of different employees, and then this data is saved in one database, which is presented in that slide. And this data is linked to the other sources of data, other tables and other logs, where further analysis could be undertaken. I think for the future, there are two things which could be done. The first one is linking the Power Apps directly to Power BI and linking Power Apps and Power Automate in one flow.
Judges' questions. Question number 1. How does it identify guests who may have been signed in on site through manual methods but weren't scheduled to come in? We've approached this as in a very simple way of just taking that manual list, merging it in with our access control list of people, and then just giving them a notional tag of either worker or guest so you can easily identify between the two. To help assist with this, we've created a lightweight Power App, so in the future that manual data that might have been handwritten can just be captured through an app, and so it's digitally available for us. Further work we believe should be done around the scheduled data, around cleaning it in instance in the first place, because this will allow us to easily more standardize the automation of how to identify people who should and shouldn't be on site on a given day. Question number 2. How has it been designed to be easy to use in a high stress scenario? Simplicity has been the key to achieving this goal. We've got a single trigger that someone just clicks that automatically will then fire off notifications to all people on our list that are due to be on site or are swiped in on site on a given day. And then this just gets people a Microsoft form that they can fill in that captures them marking themselves as a kind of either safe or not safe to achieve the objective that we want to achieve. Future improvement on this, that rather than being a separate trigger, we'd integrate this with a Power BI report, so where they consume the output from that capture of information would be the same place they could request that information. And finally, question number 3, how has the results from the app been designed for quick and easy analysis by site managers and emergency responders? This is through highlighting it within Power BI, giving them filters and sliders to change the data as fit.